Joining me now is Dr. Annie Andrews, the Democratic candidate running against Senator Darline Graham in the South Carolina Senate race. Congratulations on your primary win. Thank you so very much for joining us. We appreciate it.
Well, thank you so much for having me, Kristen.
Well, we are very fortunate to have you. I want to talk about the state of play. It is no secret you are facing an uphill battle. Let me just lay out the stakes for people. The last time voters actually chose Democrats in South Carolina, President Jimmy Carter in 1976, Senator Fritz Hollings and Governor Jim Hodges in 1998. What is your strategy to win this reliably red state?
Well, my strategy is to turn out Democrats, win over independents, and give Republicans who are tired of the chaos of their own party permission to vote for a pediatrician rather than just another politician. I've been crisscrossing the state for over a year, talking to voters in every corner of South Carolina about their concerns with high gas prices, high grocery prices, our broken healthcare system. And what I'm offering is actual solutions. And what we've seen from Darline Graham in these few weeks she's been involved in politics is nothing in the neighborhood of solutions. She's talking in slogans. She has admitted she will be a rubber stamp for this administration, and that is not what South Carolinians want. South Carolinians have a very independent mind, and they want someone who wakes up every single day and fights for the problems South Carolinians are facing and delivers results. That's exactly what I'll do. I'll work across the aisle. I'll work with anyone who's willing to work with me to solve problems.
All right. Well, I want to get you to respond to something that Darline Graham said about you in her victory speech last night. Take a listen. We'll get your response on the other side.
We cannot and must not allow Democratic Socialists to gain a foothold in our conservative state like South Carolina. Dr. Annie Andrews is the most radical liberal ever nominated for a statewide office by the South Carolina Democratic Party. Her views are those of Bernie Sanders and AOC.
So let's break that down a little bit. She's suggesting you're a Democratic Socialist. Are you?
No.
How would you label yourself? A capitalist? What would you characterize your views as?
I'm a pragmatic problem solver. I come from a completely different, very serious profession. I'm a pediatrician who's worked in children's hospitals for 20 years. Every day I went to work and I would walk into a hospital room of sick or injured children. I would work with whoever I needed to work with to solve their problems. I wouldn't go on news to blame people for their problems. I would roll up my sleeves and get the job done. We deserve a senator who does the same. Darline has no legislative record to run on. She has no experience to run on. So she is resorting to the typical national Republican attack lines that have no basis in reality. She's up there calling me radical, reading from her legal pad. And I would like to ask Darline what exactly she thinks is so radical about believing that every working South Carolina family should be able to afford to put food on the table and keep the lights on at the end of the month. What is so radical about thinking that when you're sick, you should be able to afford health care? What is so radical about thinking that if your community doesn't want a data center, there shouldn't be a data center built in your community? What is so radical about thinking that every county in South Carolina should have an OBGYN? In my opinion, Darline Graham is the radical, and I would love to see her pivot to talking about actual solutions for the problems that we're facing in South Carolina.
Dr. Andrews, she says you share the political views of Bernie Sanders and AOC. Can you name an area or an issue where you differ from them?
I believe that we need to work from the center to govern for the American people. When the far left spends their time talking to the far left and the far right spends their time talking to the far right, no one is talking to each other in the center. I believe we can be pro-business Democrats. We can support economic growth. We can allow businesses to thrive while we also make sure that we have a robust social safety net so that there aren't hungry children across America, so that no child has to, ration their insulin, so that children with asthma can afford their controller medications so they don't show up in the emergency department.
Dr. Andrews, do you think that there is room in the Democratic Party for Democratic Socialists?
I'm a big tent person, and I am very much focused on us winning this election so that Democrats control the Senate, that Democrats control the House.
So you believe there's room?
Work.
You welcome Democratic
Excuse me?
Socialists into the Democratic Party? Do you welcome Democratic Socialists into the Democratic Party?
I welcome conversations about policy, and I believe that every district, every state should pick a representative that represents what it is those constituents believe in. I believe we must win in November so that we can stop the impending Medicaid budget cuts. I don't think we need to be having Ivy League conversations about the philosophical differences in our party when there's counties in my state that have no mental health care providers, when there are 15 counties without an OBGYN, when there are parents who have to leave their sick child's bedside to go work their third shift job just so they can make ends meet. There are people who in South Carolina who are desperate for change. We must win in November so that we can stop the impending Medicaid budget cuts, which will be truly devastating to access for high quality, affordable health care for people in South Carolina and all across this country.
I want to go back to your race. You called Darline Graham unprepared for her debate where she said she wasn't informed on national security when she was asked about Taiwan. I want to put this question to you. Do you believe Taiwan and the South China Sea are national security issues for the United States, and why?
Yes, absolutely. China is an existential threat, and Taiwan is a courageous democracy. It is important that America returns to its position of moral authority on the international stage, that we stand with our democratic allies like Taiwan and like Ukraine. Particularly with Taiwan, they produce over 60% of the semiconductors globally. It is critically important that we return to a position where we can be parts of conversations about defending our democratic allies. And the Senate is not a place for on-the-job learning. Being new to politics is no excuse to being unprepared. I'm a doctor. If I showed up to work unprepared, children would die. Running for the U.S. Senate is just as critical as that job, and Darline Graham needs to treat it as such. We should expect more, which is why I'm challenging her to step on the debate stage with me. And if people want something different than an anointed Republican politician from South Carolina, I encourage them to go to DrAnnieAndrews.com to learn about me and what we can do to elect the first ever pediatrician to the U.S. Senate.
Couple more questions and we're almost out of time. As you know, I'm sure you've seen these numbers. There are real questions and concerns about the Democratic brand. In fact, a recent poll shows 58% of voters think of the party as weak. Only 34% think of it as effective. What do Democrats need to do to convince voters otherwise, to fix the brand, essentially?
Well, those numbers are interesting, and they're very different than the polling numbers we have here in South Carolina, where I'm neck and neck, 41-41 in a tie with Darline Graham amongst a population of voters that voted for Donald Trump by double digits.
But what about the concerns people have about the Democratic Party? Those words, weak and ineffective, how do you address and change the brand and the broader concerns?
We need fighters like me to step up and run. And when, new candidates step up and run, the party needs to welcome us with open arms. We need new ideas from everywhere. People are tired of a broken Washington, D.C. They're tired of corporate Democrats who sell out to special interests. I don't take corporate PAC money. One of the reasons I got in this race was because I was so frustrated by the brand of Democrats in South Carolina and nationally. And I knew I could be a part of fixing it because I'm not your regular old Democrat. I'm a pediatrician. I'm a public school mom. I never intended to get involved in politics, but when I see a problem, I want to be part of implementing a solution to that problem. So we need fighters all across the country. Very quickly, Pete Buttigieg endorsed you. Do you want to see him run for president in 2028? I think Pete Buttigieg is an amazing communicator and an amazing leader. And that is one of the things we need to rebuild our brand, is people who can effectively communicate. And so I think he'd be a great candidate for the U.S. presidency. Okay, well, we'll see what happens. And first, we'll track what happens in your race very closely. Dr. Annie Andrews, thank you very much for joining us. We really appreciate it. Thank you so much.
We thank you for watching, and remember, stay updated on breaking news and top stories on the NBC News app or watch live on our YouTube channel.